How weak that is?
Yeah.
I'm saying let's go back in the Greek, find meaton sabbaton meaning first day of the week. There is no reference. The only time it is translated first day of the week is here in these 9 places and with an ulterior motive to establish a false doctrine. The Sabbath, number 2, is a firmly established and set time by Yahweh. It is His first moed. Again, Benny and I went over to his house for a little while yesterday, and he and I were talking, and he said, Yahweh never lists his moedim, his feast, without listing the Sabbath. It's always the first one.
Right.
Well, that's exactly right. So that's exactly right. The Sabbath is His first appointed time. It was before Moses. It existed before Moses. It came into existence in Genesis.
Right.
It was written by Yahweh's finger in tablets of stone, not by Moses. Who wrote it? Yahweh did, with His own finger. And we're told that He did it with His own finger. When it was written down on Mount Sinai by Yahweh Himself, there were many witnesses. The children of Israel were at the base of the mountain. They could see what was going on. They could hear what was going on. There were great display, and there's a lot of different theories about how many of them there are. Is there 1.5 million? Is there 6 million? It doesn't. There's a bunch. So there are witnesses, and there are great displays of Yahweh's presence and power at Mount Sinai. So if the Sabbath is to be changed, it would have to be changed by Yahweh because He's the one that wrote it down.
Right.
A group of bishops can't get together and say, you know what we ought to do? We ought to honor the day of the resurrection, and that's on the first day of the week. No. Yahweh Himself would have to change it. There would have to be witnesses that Yahweh changed it. There would have to be great displays of Yahweh's presence and power as there were at Mount Sinai when He wrote it down originally. If you don't have those things, don't change it.
Right.
If you don't have those things and you did change it, you were wrong to change it.
That's right.
It cannot be changed because Yahweh Himself said that the Sabbath is to be kept as part of a perpetual covenant. That's in Exodus 31:16. The word translated perpetual means time beyond any vanishing point. Time beyond any vanishing point. That is, there is no time that exists, no matter how far in the future you look. Are you with me? Time beyond a vanishing point. No matter how far in the future you could possibly look, there is no time where the Sabbath does not still stand.
Amen.
Isaiah 66 proclaims that in the new heaven and the new earth all flesh shall still worship Yahweh on the Sabbath. Isaiah 66 verse 22, for as the new heaven and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, saith Yahweh, so shall your seed and your name remain. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, says Yahweh. So not just the Jews, but who? All flesh. And when are they going to be coming to worship Yahweh? From one Sabbath to the other. So the Sabbaths are still in effect. The third concluding point we want to make is Messiah was not resurrected on Sunday, the first day of the week. There is no scriptural reference to such a thing except as is found in fraudulent mistranslations. To believe the fraudulent mistranslations is to believe a fable. To believe a fable is to walk in deception. If you believe that Messiah was resurrected on Sunday, you're believing a fable. If somebody believes that because He was resurrected on Sunday, that's the day they should worship, they are believing a fable and they are walking in deception. And then I make this point. Even if He were raised on Sunday, everybody read what's written in parentheses.
He was not.
Say it again.
He
was not. But for the sake of argument, let's just say, even if He were, that doesn't alter the Scriptures.
Right. Right.
The Sabbath is part of a perpetual covenant that cannot be changed. It is the sign, we're told, between Yahweh and His worshipers. Exodus 31 verse 16. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations for a perpetual covenant. What does the word perpetual mean? Time beyond any vanishing point. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever, for in 6 days Yahweh made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day He rested and was refreshed. So it is a sign for how long? Forever. The mark and the evidence of who walks in covenant with Yahweh is what? They keep the Sabbath. The mark, the evidence that you worship and walk in covenant with Yahweh. Yahweh said that mark is you keep my Sabbath.
Right. Amen.
So even if we were raised on Sunday, he was not. It doesn't alter what Torah teaches. And number two, even if he were raised on Sunday, he was not. But even if he were, the Scriptures are wanting us to know the date of his death and the date of his resurrection, not the day.
Right. Right.
He was slaughtered on the 14th day of the first month. That's Abib 14. He was made alive on the third day. That would have been the 16th day of the first month, or Abib 16. It is the date that should be celebrated, not the day. If you want to celebrate his resurrection, you celebrate it on Abib 16. Well, when is that? Well, that's the 16th day of the first month. Well, when is that? Well, the 16th day of the first month is the month that starts with a new moon after the spring equinox. So once spring equinox has taken place, you identify when the first moon is, you count from there 16 days, that's the day he was resurrected. That's the date he was resurrected. That's the date that should be celebrated. So I make this point. You don't celebrate the day you were born. And you don't celebrate the day you were married.
Right.
You celebrate the date you were born.
Right.
Right.
And you celebrate the date you were married.
Right.
We ask people, well, when's your birthday? What we're asking them, though, is when is your birth date?
Right.
When were you born? Okay? So it's the date that's important. All attempts to make the resurrection about a day are rooted in demonic attempts to turn people away from Yahweh, His Torah, and His Sabbath.
Yes, sir.
I can't state that any more strongly than the way I have stated it. Every attempt to make the resurrection about a day, every one of those, are rooted in demonic attempts to turn people away from Yahweh, His Torah, and His Sabbath.
Yes, sir.
In less than, how long have I been going? What time is it? About 35, 40 minutes? I can't see it. How long? I want to know. What time is it? Been going longer than I thought. In less than an hour, we have established that it's impossible for the Scriptures to tell us He rose on the first day of the week. And yet the vast majority of those who say they want to honor Him will try to celebrate His resurrection tomorrow morning.
Right.
On the first day of the week. And many of them are going to even throw in egg hunts today. And hide baskets tonight for children to find in the morning. They're going to mix in a few bunnies and a few colored eggs. They have already probably spent time dyeing eggs. Those things are no more devious and demonic than trying to celebrate His resurrection on the first day of the week. Because they're all connected to sun worship and fertility deities, every bit of it. That's the reason it was done.
Right.
This is not a condemnation of anybody who believes that, I want to say this right. I'm not seeking to condemn anybody for believing that He rose on the first day of the week and worshiping on that day. I'm not trying to condemn them for it because I once did it.
Right.